All right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, if you remember, the check valve was stuck inside the spacer plate, and what happens is the torque converter clutch valve wears out. I'm going to show you how to repair that and the steps to take to properly do that. First you'll need a speed handle, socket, and your honing tool, and you need to have some cutting oil. You need to have your tool nice and lubed up because you don't want to cause any damage to the valve body. And what I do is I put a garbage can directly underneath. Makes it a lot easier for cleanup. And this is the valve train we're going to do. So what we want to do is, as we're running the hone down to redo this valve, we don't want the metal to go back down in and get circulated around and cause damage. So what I do is I turn it over to make sure this is over the bench. I put a screwdriver to hold it in place, and I hone it this way over a garbage can so the chips go down into the garbage and not back into the valve body to cause more damage. What you want to do is get the cutting tool lubed up with cutting oil. Never use a drill or a gun with this style. Always do it by hand. Put a little bit of pressure on it. That's why I have the screwdriver in there, so it'll help hold the valve body in place. And slowly turn this in until you're completely down. These tools are self-stopping. They'll only go down so far. So just do it until the tool stops. And it's right there. Now, as I said, you need to twist it out as if you were drilling it. You want to protect this. Now we'll blow these off, clean the valve body up, and I'll show you how to put the valves back in the valve body. All right, as you can see, we got the valve body cleaned off and dried. There's no more metal in here. All my valves in my valve body tray, so they're ready to go in. My replacement valve that I'm going to put in. Now you can use ATF, or they do have valve body prep if you want. It's to lube the valves before you put them together. It's up to you. You use either one. ATF is really cheap. We usually have a whole bunch of it around, so I'll be using that. I will start to replace all the valves now, and you can watch. And then when I get to the valve here, I'll show you the difference in the two valves and why it does what it does. I'm going to start on this side. I've always taken them out a certain direction, so I'm going to put them back exactly the same way. You need to make sure they move freely inside the valve body. If you remember right, we didn't have to do anything. All the valves came out very easy, so they should go back in really easy. What I do is put a little bit of lube inside of each hole. So we know that we're nice and lubed up. You don't want to put them in dry. And we'll start with the force motor valve. Should go right down to the bottom, nice and easy. You have the retainer. Press this in. Well, all of these should be extremely tight. The plugs at the end, because they are holding fluid. If they are too loose, you will need to replace them. After it's in, you make sure the valve moves. And keep on going. We'll make sure valves move nice and freely. They go in and out really, really easy. Again, we don't want to put anything in dry. install valves. The next two are for the shift. We'll put both these in. And then the thing that retains these are the shift solenoids. We'll put brand new ones in. Always replace these. These are extremely cheap. With lube on the O-rings before I go in. You can either use transmission prep or you can use ATF. We've got the abuse valve, which we will install and put the pin in. These retainers wear out sometimes and you need to replace them. If there's no wear in them, you should be okay. A lot of people replace them every time. It's a good idea if you'd like to. They're not that expensive to replace the plugs for these abuse valves. When they do get abused, that's why they're called abuse valves. Same thing on the other side. Another abuse valve. Goes way down. Great. Remember, all the valves should go in nice and easy. You should never have to force anything. If you're forcing something, something's wrong. Either you're trying to jam it in the wrong hole, or there's a burr or something on your valve or the valve body itself, and you have to hone it out and clean your valve up. Sometimes you have to have these just right. To fit inside. Alright, now this is the valve that we would have replaced, or that we would have put back in, but we're putting a new one in it. What happens is this is billet aluminum, and with the pulse width modulated, what it does is it strokes the valve 50 times or 100 times every cycle instead of just stroking it once. So this billet valve wears out the cast valve body because the cast is a lot softer than the billet. So what we do is replace the valve with an updated one that has a billet valve inside of a billet cover, which will not wear out as much. And it comes with a new steel valve for the end. So put these both in. Remember, don't force anything. And after this is in, it will take care of your 1870 codes that you were getting in these valve bodies, because that is the reason why. Notice how easy that went in. Now we will check each valve to make sure they properly stroke. Force one. Everything strokes. We're good. All right, we got done with the valve body. Now we'll start putting bushings in the transmission, start getting that put back together. All right, as you can see here, I've got them all my parts laid out. I've got the bushings with each piece that it goes with. We're going to show you how to press those in, but first thing I want to do is, if you notice this drum, really shiny, we don't want that. It'll make the band slide on it a lot more. What we're going to do is we're going to put this on a lathe and scratch it up really good, clean it so it looks like it's brand new again, so the band properly works. So we'll do that now. What we're going to do is polish this nice and pretty. We've got 80 grit and then 260 grit, and then we'll do some Scotch-Brite. So we'll get this cleaned up. As you can see, we've got a nice brand new surface for it, and we're ready to put everything in. Now on this, the case bushing is the only bushing that we will hammer in. All the rest will be pressed in, and which you should do with all bushings, is press them in. So I'll show you how to put this case bushing in, and then we'll press the other bushings in. Hopefully you can see it. I got the bushing done in there. Get our special press or bushing driver, long extension, and tap this into place. You want to have it countersunk just a little bit for the bearing, but that bushing's now in the case, and we'll do the other ones. All right, we'll put the bushings in now. We've got our drum in. If you're ever going to buy any kind of tool, this would be the thing to buy, the Arbor press. It does everything you need it to do, anything you want it to do. It takes drums apart, puts drums back together, it presses bushings in, seals in, so that's what we're going to do. Just push all the seals, or all the bushings and seals in. I need to. This one needs to be countersunk just a little bit. Bushing in, what we want to do is, after we get done, we'll test all of them, make sure they properly work on each piece they're supposed to spin against. As you can see, this rides on here, so we want to make sure that goes on there and spins nice and neat, that it's not catching anyway. So we'll test all those when we're done. Hopefully I don't have the camera too close and these aren't out of focus. Best thing about an arbor press is it pushes them down straight. So they're exactly nice and flush. You're not pushing them in crooked. These will need to be countersunk. So we'll push them down flush first. Like that. Now I'll countersink it just a hair. Same with the other side. Push it down flush. And then countersink it just a little bit. On the pump, they have a little ridge. They won't allow the bushing to go so far. This is a Teflon coated bushing. Do not ever put a Babbitt bushing in the pump. You will lose your tranny within 3 months. Go down till it stops. Do not force it any further than that because there is a little ridge right there that'll stop it. Now while you've got this here, I should have had it out. What we'll do is we'll put our seal in there and press it right in so it's nice and flush and we didn't damage it by hitting it with a hammer. Alright, we'll get this all put away and then we'll start putting the tranny together. Alright, as you can see, I've got everything laid out here. I've got all my kit out, clutches, band. I've test fit all my bushings that I installed to make sure they run nice and smooth, and they do. What you need to do with these is you need to soak them in ATF. So I make these little hooks, and I have a 5-gallon bucket that's half full of ATF, clean, brand new ATF. Always use clean ATF. If you're doing a Honda, make sure you put it in Honda fluid. If you're doing a BMW, BMW fluid. Mercedes, they're all different. You must soak their clutches in their own transmission fluid. So, luckily this is the most one I use because we do a lot of domestics. So we get these in here and we want to soak these while we get some other stuff put together. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is put my Sprags together. Or I should really say my Sprag and my low roller clutch. Roller clutches have little springs and elongated rollers in them. You can mistakenly go in a different way, so you need to double check which way to make sure it's spinning properly. Install the roller and the retaining ring. Install this inner race. You want to make sure that it turns one way and locks the other, won't roll it back the other way, and it only allows it to go this way. Same thing with the forward. Put your race in. Want to make sure this goes the right direction. If you put these in backwards, you will have problems. It won't move or it will bind up. Easiest way for these is I hold the small side and rotate the outside clockwise. Locks counter, spins clockwise. So you always got to double check on that. Next we're going to put the servo in. Put this back together. You have your piston, your spring, retainer. What we need to do is get the snap ring off our pin. And we'll use this. You remember, right? This was tough to get off. It looks like it's going to be tough. So, well, you know what? Let's clean this up. We'll clean up this bore and the pin. We'll show you how to do that so you don't damage anything. Because you need to have this piston slide up and down on this pin to properly work. So what happens is it gets a ridge right here. I'll put this in a drill, or you can put it in a lathe, whatever one you want. But most people have drills, so that's an easy way to do it. Right, got some sandpaper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up this little ridge here. If you want, you can clean the entire thing nice and smooth. So it slides in the case. Same thing with the whole thing. We'll want to take the same things we use on the valve body if you need to, but hone this up nice and smooth. And it should go in nice and smooth now and work great. You want to make sure nothing catches when you're building the transmission, because it has to flow nice and smooth or it will not work properly. Alright, so put that on there, this on the top, our pin. And the easy way to do, you should be able to see it with that in there. Set this on here, and I use my Arbor press. That's what I said, one tool you're ever going to buy an Arbor press. Pin down a little longer. Snap ring in it. Now after you've done this and you've got this, you need to make sure this moves up back and forth. See how it's catching a little bit? We need to make sure that that moves nice and freely. What we'll do is we'll get a dead blow. We want to make sure it goes up and down, because this hole will make it catch and slide if you have the snap ring off to the side. So see how that goes? There we go. Install a spring, washer, and a clip. Blue one goes on the outer, red one goes on the inner. I'm going to make 3 different sizes. They have a big one that you don't see very often anymore, and they got a small one that's called a Corvette one. Some of these came with small ones. Do not take them out. If they have one in there, you must have them in there, or they will not properly work. Put your Teflon seals on these. Set them in the drum, or set them in the cover. Now you want to make sure there is a flat side almost, and a side that's got a bigger knob on it. The bigger knob goes inside the piston, or the cover. So it's a short side on this side. If you have it in wrong, your band adjustment's going to be wrong and you'll have problems. On the out one, I usually put just a little bit. You don't need a lot to hang this, to help hold this in place. Because this seal rides on the inside of this case. And then you want to put your outer one on top, onto that, and then onto this. Uh-oh, that got damaged. Well, we'll have to clean that up now. Wow, alright, I had forgot that this had rolled onto the floor, and it must have put a big old ding in the bottom of this because I had to actually take it back off and put it on the lathe to get it cleaned up so it would go slide nice and easy. So wow, that was my fault. That's why you need to double check everything. Put this back together. Now it's nice and easy how it's supposed to be. That on there, and then that's the return spring. That's ready to be installed, and we'll set that off to the side. Next, what I'm going to do is do my pump. I utilized the low and reverse piston. Set this on, built it. Got the bushing and the seal put in it. I can put the seal retainer in now. Make sure it's down. Alright, and when you're putting these in, like anything, you want to have it lube, so we'll take our ATF. I always want to make sure there's no deep grooves, gouges, damage done to either part of the valve or either part of the pump. I have my slide, and inside the slide goes an O-ring. And then what I do is take the outer part, put just a little bit of the green, just to hang on, just enough to hold it while I turn it over and set it down to keep it in place. Now you have to put the slide bushing and seal in it. There's a little orange or green and a little piece of straight piece of round seal. Put that in. The pivot pin spring, and then the pivot pin. You want to make sure there is no wear anywhere on this. If it is, it needs to be worn. It needs to be replaced. Install the pivot pin. This should go back and forth now. Nice and easy, tight. Then we'll need to install the spring, the slide spring. There's one inside the other. Make sure there's a different style that is, the ends are smushed down so they taper at each end. We want to install the spring. I'm going to make sure it's nice and centered. Now they do show, I think, 6 different thicknesses for these, for the pumps. I've been doing this 30 years and I've only seen one thickness, so I don't think you'll ever have to worry about it if you change them out, because sometimes these are damaged, you need to replace them. Install your ring, your little guide here, hang on to it with your fingers. It goes facing towards the front of the transmission. Then we'll install our vanes. Now when you're putting your vanes in, you want to make sure there's no damage where you can see the rings they've been running. If there's any lip at all here, you need to replace your vanes. And never turn them around. Always put the ring side back towards the rings. This is a 13 vane kit. They do have 10 vanes, and they do have a 16 vane kit too. Make sure you put all of these in the proper right side. If you change this out, you will have to measure to make sure this is the same thickness, your new one and old one, or you will have a height clearance difference. If you're not changing these out, they really don't need to worry about that. That part's put together. What I'll do is I'll put a little lube on it. And then we'll put our cover together. This is the cover, this is the pump body. There's a little filter that goes right there. I fought one that somebody put together once that didn't realize that I walked over and took this apart for him. He'd never taken the filter out, so he didn't put another one back in it. Had a double bump at first. He put it in gear and it dunk dunk, and he fought that for a long time. Took me a little while to figure it out too, but we got it figured out. We put a little oil for our valves. We install our valve springs. This is the torque converter clutch valve. There's two springs, one inside the other. We install the valve. Need to remember which way these go in, because they only go in. Some of these valves are going both ways, and if you put them in backwards, you'll have serious problems. Little washer and snap. Now we'll go on the pressure side. Pressure within the valve. Outer one, inner spring. Need to check these out. Sometimes these wear out and they will cause problems. You'll lose pressure. This one's really, really tight. What I do is I put a little dab of the green goo to hold it in place, so when I turn it upside down it doesn't fall out. Don't put too much, you don't need a lot. And install the retaining clip. So, now I'll put this together. I always put these two holes here because it makes it easy to line up because it only goes together one way. Put a little lube on this. Again, two holes. It's just a lot easier to put together. Now there's 5 bolts that we will put on. Start them all on hand. Now you have to have a pump alignment tool. I have this, and you can also, let me stretch over, or you can use a big hose clamp. These are off for diesels, for their air cleaner on the side of diesel trucks. You can get these, are a lot cheaper than this. But you need to align the pump, the two halves together, so they're perfectly aligned. If not, they will not fit in the case properly, and you'll damage it. Holes are lined up. All right, nice and tight. Now what we need to do is we need to torque these to proper specs. Torque wrench, socket, never run a tranny down together. All right, never use a gun to put the transmission together. Always do everything by hand. These have 5 bolts. Do it just like you would a tire. Do a star pattern. We'll get them down so they stop, and then we will torque them down to specs, which on this one is 18 foot-pounds. Set your torque wrench to 18, and again do the star pattern until it clicks. I don't know if you can hear it click. 18 foot-pounds isn't that much. on. Okay, torque down the specs. Maybe go through all of them. Double check, make sure they all click. Okay, we're down to specs. Move the alignment tool. Almost done with the pump. What we want to do right now is check to make sure the pump spins. You don't want, so there's no burrs or anything. You can take a screwdriver and see if you can get it to turn, or if you can go to your torque converter place, you can get an extra hub and you put it here and make sure that the pump turns. Because you don't want to be putting the transmission in the vehicle and go to put the converter in and it won't spin because there's dirt, debris, damage you didn't notice. You need to make sure it's done. Now, one of the most important things that most people don't do because they don't want to spend the money on the tools is install the Teflon rings. A lot of people will not take these off, which is a really bad thing. You're hacking it up if you're not doing this. Some people scarf cut these and put them back on. It's not what you should do. You need to buy the tool and properly put these back together. Take my thrust washer from my pump, glue it on. You don't need a lot of glue, but you need a little bit. Then we'll put our Teflon rings, solid Teflon rings, on our pump. Have your sizer, be careful. Adjust it back up, do the other one. You always want to do the farthest one first. All right, just like so. Okay. Now you're done with this. You can set this off the side. You want to leave the sizer on there until you put it in the vehicle, or until you put it in the transmission. Now while I'm doing this, the next thing I do is the drum, the input drum. I put the washer. This is selective. And the bearing on top, a lot of people put this in wrong. A lot of people will put it in backwards. Okay? The silver side goes down. It has the lip that sits inside the little dish here. Make sure you have the black side up. Then we will install the Teflon rings on here. Same thing. People leave these on and don't replace it because they don't want to spend the money on the tool. Spend the $120, get the tool so you can properly do this. Do not scarf cut them, do not do anything, put these on properly. They're not that hard to do. In fact, they're really pretty easy. Doesn't take much effort. And you know it's done right and done properly. Now, a lot of you haven't ever done transmissions. You're watching this going, wow, this looks really easy. But you got to remember, I've been doing this for over 30 years. Went to college for this. I mean, I've done thousands of these, so it's really, I make it look easy because I've done it for a long time, but this is extremely difficult to properly do. So I've got my seals on here now. Now we'll start putting drums together. have brand new molded pistons that we get with our kit, always replace these. If they come with aluminum pistons, which these do come with aluminum pistons, make sure you replace the seals. Okay, install the new lip seals. As I mentioned when I started this thing, this is not for unexperienced. I'm not going to show you exactly how to put each seal on and which ones are the right ones and which direction they go. This is for more advanced people who have been doing this for a while. These are lip seals on these drums. These are lathe cut on this one. So I've got my seal on. If you notice, I got a lot left. And if you're wondering why, well, these are the seals that would go on these drums if these were aluminum, so we don't need these. So now we're going to put our drums together, pistons in the drum. I use a paintbrush, some people use their fingers. You need to have trans prep or some other kind of thing. Some people use ATF, whatever you want. I use a brush, it's really easy. You don't need a lot, just a very, very thin coating. Same thing on your seals. Very, very thin. You don't need a ton. I see people put way too much lube on these things. Here are the lip seal installers. This is the most common one. This is one I made myself. It's just for me to help do the inner ones. Something of my own design. I even made a poor man's patent on it, so I don't have to worry about somebody stealing it. Carefully go around. You want to get your seals in properly. As I said, you're thinking to yourself, well, that looks easy, but it's not. It takes quite a bit to learn how to get the seals down properly so you don't cut or damage them. Because if you cut or damage your seals, it will leak and you will burn the tranny. Anytime you get a piston down, it should spin nice and easy. If it's not, if it doesn't, you've got the seal rolled over. You can repair that. So that one's down. We'll put the springs in here in a moment. Then we'll do the drum, and I'll move the camera to the other side. All right. I have my pistons here. Now this is the easiest way I found to put these together. I've seen people do it tons of different ways. First is the O-ring down inside the drum. Make sure that's in there. Now what we want to do is lube the outer ring down here and the inner post. Need to lube this really good to install. Now, these two pieces to go together, so what we want to do is do that first. As I said, you don't need a lot. And, come on. Sometimes you can get it together by hand, but sometimes you can't. That's together. Lube the outside of this, the inside. Got our little crown here, spring, and I set this like this. This is the way I do it. I figured this is the easiest way after doing it so many times. We want to put the bottom piston in. Just like so. Now I hold this. This is the easiest way I found to do this, and lower it down, wiggle it down, right in. Okay, same thing with the top one. A little lube on the outside of this one. Oop. And it goes right in. Put this on, now we'll push it down. That's what I like about the Arbor press, because it presses everything in and it pushes spring springs down, build your drums. They're really inexpensive and they are a multitasking tool. So this is the best thing to do for your money. Put that in there, get your snap ring pliers. Put that in. You see that thin? You can see this is off one of my my foot presses, extra tool, which is great. You can do that. And now with this one, there is different things you can use. I do have other style of spring compressors. This is one. I've got like 5 different sizes of this, which makes it pretty easy. They work really well for this. And install the snap ring like so. And it's in. Alright. We'll put these the clutches in these 2 drums first before we do the piston that goes inside the case. Now, there's a lube seal that goes right here. I want to put a little lube on that. And there is a bearing for the forward sprag that we're going to put in. So I'll put the bearing down. And we'll take our clutches that have been dripping dry. Put a plate, clutch, plate, clutch. This is the top plate. Now I'm going to put this together and kind of show you a different way to check the end clearance. Whatever way you want to do it is up to you. Most of the time right now I'd put the forward sprag in. But we're going to build this up and we're going to check the end plate, make sure it's proper, or the clutch clearance. So a wave plate, another still plate, clutch. Let's go back and forth now. Now, a lot of you people out there you're taking your buffer and you're taking your buffer to this and buffing these up, scratching it up. Well, that is the worst thing you can do. A long time ago, they came out with a bulletin to do that, but they've revised it going, no, don't do that because you're causing more damage than anything. So do not, whatever you do, buff your plates. If they're damaged, replace them. Okay, see, now you want to be able to check your end clearance. Check your specs for your particular one you're trying to do. The easiest thing I've ever found to do is you get the drill bit of the thickest and the thinnest clearance it's supposed to be, and you can pick these up and see if they fit between them. If the thickest one doesn't fit, but the smallest one does, well, you're probably right in the specs. You want to hold clutches up all the way, make sure it works. But that's one way to check it, or you can get a dial indicator on it and then stroke it up and down and watch the dial. But either way, I like using drill bits. It's much easier. You can use a feeler gauge, but drill bits are much easier and faster. So we know these are into specs. So we remove the snap ring. Take these clutches out. Then I'll set my Sprag in there. Want to double check, make sure it turns the right way. Make sure one of your buddies didn't come by and swap it around. Now we'll install forward clutches. Okay, now put your 3/4s in. You've got your bottom plate with the feet. And then same here, clutch plate, clutch plate, clutch plate. Get it all stacked up. All right, now before you put your last plate in, you want to make sure you put your springs in. I know a lot of people for years have been pulling these out and throwing them away. You need to start putting them back in, leaving them in there. They help more than you think. Put your plate on and install your snap ring. Now, same thing here. You want to check your end play, get your drill bit, make sure it fits under here with your proper specs to the vehicle you're doing. Then we'll get the reverse input drum. All right, these have a cone plate that goes on the bottom. The inner goes up. Do not put it backwards. And then you got your bottom plate. Now again, clutch plate, clutch plate. You always got to know your specs, because sometimes if you feel the clutches, you're like, wow, that's way loose. But if you look at it and they're in the specs, that's where you want it. If you tighten it up too much, you will cause problems with your transmission. Check that, just like you want to see it. And that's done. All right, now we'll put the low and reverse piston in.